Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War. He was only president for 4 years, but so much happened. And to get into this, let's talk about the devastation of the Civil War. Basically, how many people died? Let's look at that.
Okay, the American Revolution, look at the number of dead. War of 1812, we're working our way down. Mexican War, Spanish-American. World War I, look at that, 116,516 dead. World War II, 405,000. Korean War, Vietnam War, total number of dead in 8 wars in the United States, 639,007. Now, how many died in the American Civil War in 4 years of war alone? Over 640,000 dead.
Let's get into it though. Abraham Lincoln, born in 1809. He was born about 1 month after Thomas Jefferson left the White House. It gives you an idea of how young the country was at the time. And Lincoln's dad, who was right here, his name was Timothy Lincoln. Lincoln's dad was very, very, very harsh. He's a very, very harsh man. Some would say abusive. Now, we don't know if he really was abusive. He was, I'm sure, abusive by our standards in the 21st century. Back then, he was known as a very, very, very harsh man. But Lincoln loved books, but he only had 1 year of formal schooling. 1 year, that was it. Everything else he learned on his own. Okay, he was born in 1809. He was born in Kentucky, grew up in Knobs Creek. Eventually, the family moved to Indiana, then Illinois. This is Lincoln's mother, Nancy. And she was a very, very kind woman. But unfortunately, she, at the age of 32, she got what they call a milk disease stuff. And Lincoln helped build his mother's coffin. They put the body in the coffin. The dad pulled the body on a sleigh up a hill, and they buried his mother. But they didn't have any service until months later when the dad could afford it. So, I mean, I don't know if you think about it. This is Lincoln's dad, what he was thinking. But you would think they would do something. So it would be very, very harsh, you know, very, very hard to grow up this way. But basically, some say his dad was abusive. We don't know. Abraham had a very, very uneasy relationship with his father. One thing we do know is that when Abraham Lincoln got married, he did not invite his dad. When his dad was sick and passing away, Lincoln did not go to visit him. So definitely, it was a very, very uneasy relationship. I mentioned that Lincoln's mother died. Lincoln had a sister. Her name was Sarah. And she was about 2 years older. So when the mother died, he was 9. His sister Sarah was 11. A cousin who was 19 years old had moved in because his family had passed away by the milk disease. So now you got Thomas Lincoln, his 19-year-old nephew, 11-year-old daughter, 9-year-old son, and about a year later, he got tired. I mean, the little girl was cooking and cleaning for them. They were out there working. He decides to go out there and get himself a new bride, a new mom for the kids, basically. So he went out, and he left Abraham and his sister. When Lincoln was around 10, his dad decides to get a new bride, and he goes away. Now imagine, Lincoln's 10 years old, his sister's 12 years old. His dad goes away. They have a 20-year-old cousin living there. His dad goes away, says, I'm going to bring you home a new mother. So Mr. Lincoln goes away to get a new bride. And he leaves the kids in this little one-room cabin over here, alone. Nobody around for a mile or two. He leaves these kids there alone for 6 months. They're eating berries, fishing, working, cooking, eating what they can. I mean, that for me is like insane. The dad comes back and he comes back with a new bride. He brings a woman back home. Her name is also Sarah, but they called her Sally. Her name was Sarah, just like Lincoln's sister. I have a picture of Sarah, but she's very old in this photo. I have no idea what she looked like when she was young. She was a very, very extremely kind woman. And it was something that Abraham really, really needed when he was a little boy. That this kind woman encouraged him to read and learn and do as much as possible. After his mother died, though, Lincoln developed what today we'll call clinical depression. And it was evident around that time. He probably had it his whole life, I don't know. His depression was so strong that he even had a name for it. He called it the hypo. People would ask Abraham, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? And he goes, well, you know, I got the hypo. And he had a very good sense of humor. Lincoln would tell a lot of jokes, and a lot of the jokes were directed at himself. He considered himself a bit ugly. And one time, as a politician, he was debating, and somebody said, "You're two-faced." And Lincoln said, "Hey, if I had two faces, you think I'd be wearing this one?" He would really attack himself. But he was hiding a melancholy, a depression that he hid behind all of that sense of humor that he had. Lincoln's sister, her name was Sarah, who I'm going to assume that he was very close to. They had a little brother that died in his infancy. It was basically him and his sister that were growing up together. She was 2 years older. Sarah married a man and she got sick, and her husband didn't get medical help on time. This is what Abraham Lincoln says. And she passed away. She died. I think she was like 20, and 2021. Lincoln must have been very, very depressed over the matter. I mentioned that he did suffer clinical depression, and his mother had passed away. Thank goodness he had a kind stepmother. His father's very harsh, and now his sister, who he was close to, passes away. Around that time, he goes to New Orleans. They had hit about 21, 22 years old. He goes to New Orleans. He gets a job on a flatboat. And when he goes to New Orleans, he says New Orleans is the biggest city he had ever seen. Remember, he was always living in the frontier. Okay, he started working on a flatboat in New Orleans. And working on the flatboat, he was about 23 years old. He actually gets into local politics and runs for the state legislature, and he loses. But what's funny to me, or strange, is that Lincoln just came out of the frontier, and a year later he's already getting involved in local politics. I mean, that shows a lot of ambition in this young man and a lot of gall to go out and do this. He ran a store. He worked as a blacksmith. He did a lot of things. He became a lawyer, and people love Lincoln because of his sense of humor and all of that. They love Lincoln. He joined the Whig Party. He helped other candidates when they were running. And he would read and read and read a lot. He would read poetry. He'd read Shakespeare. He'd read the Bible. And one thing that gets me is Lincoln found himself ugly, but he would never dress up. I think this is a way of keeping people away. That big old stovepipe hat that he would wear, and he put apple cores and speeches in there. It was kind of crazy. He met a woman named Anne Rutledge when he was about 26 years old. And he was very awkward. His pants were not long enough. His ankles would show and all this. And he meets this woman named Anne Rutledge. Now, this is a strange thing. Anne was already engaged to somebody. But Lincoln pursued her. And I think that kind of helped him pursue her, because if she rejects him, he could say, well, she rejected me because she's engaged. So there's not a real rejection. His self-esteem is intact, if you follow what I'm trying to say. Anne did like him. Anne Rutledge did like Abraham Lincoln. But she got sick, and she passed away very, very young. I think it was tuberculosis, but she died very, very young. And Lincoln was distraught. Now, I mentioned that he suffered depression, but never like this. His friends had never seen him like this. They had never seen him so demolished, devastated, and distraught and upset. And he says he couldn't bear to think of her buried and the rain falling on him. Maybe that brought up images of his mother. Remember, she was buried up on a hill, and I'm sure it rained once in a while, and he would probably look up there and say, my mom's buried up there on that hill, and it's raining on her body. It was a bad time. Eventually, he pulled out of it. He went to Springfield, Illinois, and he met a woman named Mary Todd. Mary Todd Lincoln was not beautiful, but she had a lot of suitors. Men were after her. And when he went to Springfield, he met Mary Todd Lincoln. Mary Todd loved politics, just like Abraham Lincoln did. Now, Mary Todd had a lot in common with him. She suffered depression too. And her mother died. She loved her mother very much. And I think she had like 6 brothers and sisters. And then her mother died in childbirth. So his dad goes away, and about a year later remarries or so, and has 9 more children with this new wife. So Mary Todd had this desire for her father's attention. Now, with all these, what did I call, 14 or 15 brothers and sisters or stepbrothers and all of that, she had a hard time trying to get attention from him, but she did. And she would study politics. Her dad was very involved in politics, and she would go there. And she knew a lot. Her dad was very rich. She was very, very ambitious. She at one time said that she would marry a future president of the United States. Now, Abraham Lincoln approaches her, danced with her very, very badly. He's from the Baptist religions. Baptists did not dance. He approached her, danced with her, and started wooing her. Now, that she must have seen something in him that attracted her, because she paid attention to him, and eventually he proposed to get married to her, to marry Todd. And she said yes, and got married. He married Todd Lincoln, and got involved in politics. And you know the story, he became president. So it did work out for both of them in that way. Abraham Lincoln reading the Bible. Lincoln, when he was very, very young, we don't know if he was very religious, but he became very, very religious while he was president, very spiritual. I think what happened was, remember I mentioned it was 640,000 men died during the Civil War, and the devastation and the blood. This in 4 years. This is like hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of men dying every single day. Lincoln had to find something to hold on to, and I guess he found his faith, or his spirituality. Lincoln at one point equated the Civil War as a punishment because of slavery, and at one time he says that possibly the war would not end. The war would end when God wanted the war to end. When God wanted the war to end, it would end, and that possibly would not end until every drop of blood that was shed whipping the slaves had to be repaid with the drops of blood from the soldiers. Something like that. I quoted it wrong, I know. But it goes to show, and he aged very much while he was in the White House. He was trying to connect somehow spiritually with the horrible things that were happening while he was president and during the war. And he would mention, North and South, we pray to the same God. And the war just continues and continues. And he looked at it as, well, the war would end when God wanted it to end. And we'll get into the Civil War later on. But for the moment, 16th President of the United States, he's in Springfield, Illinois, married to Mary Todd, and Lincoln is on his way.